Welcome back to our closing session of the virtual event for 2022, Supply Chain Agility. You know, this session is really focusing on wall-to-wall automation. And while many of the sessions have certainly talked about the picking function and how those functions can be optimized, and that's certainly because that's also where the majority of labor is, there are many opportunities outside of that where AMRs and other forms of mechanization may be utilized to improve performance. You know, that can include replenishment activities, returns, et cetera. Or maybe another way to consider that is just, you know, anytime we're moving inventory or counting inventory, there's an opportunity for automation and robotics to be able to be applied. You know, we're going to talk a little bit on this session again of certainly what is currently available, but also what's around the corner. And then we'll conclude with a brief comment. Again, Kara Ashby is unable to attend due to illness, so I will be making those concluding comments. You know, as your moderator, if there's any questions that come up through the course of the event, certainly don't hesitate to use the Q&A function, and I will try to monitor those for you. You know, I'd certainly next like to welcome our speaker today. Gillian Hawks is a VP of Product Management and Analytics for Six River Systems, where she's responsible for the product vision and roadmap. And in this role, she's earned recognition as a top woman in supply chain, recognized by the Supply and Demand Chain Executive magazine, and a leader making a mark in robotics by the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. Now, prior to Gillian joining Six Rivers, she worked in finance and management consulting, spending about 10 plus years building and running e-commerce businesses for large retailers such as Tesco, Home Depot, and Staples. She's an avid runner, biker, hot yoga, and being a mom of 2 growing boys, which probably is hot yoga of itself. Gillian has a BA from Princeton and an MBA from the London Business School. And I guess, Gillian, you know, as I was preparing for this session, you know, I read an article recently, you know, White Castle's now partnered with Miso Robotics to integrate their Flippy 2 burger flipper into their operations. And, you know, I'm not expecting necessarily you'll be telling us how we're going to be able to do our fast food anytime in the near future. I think the point that I was getting at from this article was the fact that, you know, there's a lot of activities that people may not necessarily initially consider as part of how they can help automate their operations. And I think, you know, part of this session is to really say, let's start to think a little bit more outside the box. The supply chain challenges aren't going away. Labor shortages aren't going away. So let's think about how we can possibly utilize the capabilities that are out there or certainly are around the corner to be able to provide the best service to the end customers there. So with that as a backdrop, Gillian, I'm going to turn this over to you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lou, and thanks for that very gracious introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, I mean, as Lou said, automation is rapidly becoming not optional anymore, and in so many different places in the world, you know, be it from fast food, which, you know, is not where Six River plays, but in warehousing, in live stores, et cetera. So it's a wave that is coming at us all. And my presentation is a lot about why is that wave coming? And what do we as in the space that we're in, which is fulfillment, and that most of you are in, what do we do? What do we understand about it? And what are we going to do about it? So let's dig in. A little bit, as I say, Lou, about myself. My name is Gillian Hawks, and I head up the Six River Product Management and Data Insights team. And in that role, I'm responsible for our product strategy and roadmaps. And I joined Six River about 4 years ago after spending 15 years leading e-commerce teams at large global retailers like you see on the screen here. So I am very familiar with fulfillment and supply chain challenges and why there's really a burning platform, as I call it, for investing in technology and automation to compete and to meet customers' ever-changing needs. And that's really what we're going to talk about here today. I'd like to talk about why retailers 3PLs, and virtually really any warehouse operator, anyone involved in fulfillment needs to automate. 6RS really understands the mounting fulfillment challenges and operator pain points. And for the past 5 years, we've really been on a mission and a journey to build what we call wall-to-wall fulfillment solutions for our customers. And we call it, that our product is called the FES, Fulfillment Execution System. And today I'm going to give you an overview of that FES, introduce you to Chuck, who some of you may know, our collaborative mobile robot, and really start with, however, why automation? Why is automation so important for our success collectively in this space? And as Lou said, I think if questions come up, we've got plenty of time at the end to handle those. So just, I think, put them in the chat and we'll be sure to get to them. So why automate? What is driving the burning platform for automation? And there's several kind of macroeconomic and market factors driving the need for investment and acceleration of e-commerce, investment in automation. And the first is really the acceleration of e-commerce penetration of retail sales. Right, 2019, remember back then, was an inflection point, really driven by COVID, which accelerated a trend that already existed, right? E-commerce was already growing at a nice tick. However, it got a really shot in the arm from COVID, and e-com penetration is forecast to grow from 10% in 2019 to double that to 20% in 2024. And as I said, COVID gave this trend a bump, but importantly, experts agree that this trend is not going to reverse, even as the effects of COVID, hopefully, are felt less and less. Consumers are addicted to online shopping, and this is a tailwind that's going to continue to fuel e-commerce growth really for the foreseeable future. Trend number two is really consumers are shopping for a broader and broader array of products online. Any kind of perceived barriers to buying things like food or home goods were shattered during COVID, shattered, literally. Customers want to buy virtually everything that they can online now. And they're going to continue to do so because of the convenience factor and the flexibility, right? And so that's sort of what that the third driver there is on the far right. Customers want omni-channel flexibility for how they receive their goods. They want them, if they want them delivered, they want them delivered fast, next day or same day. And they also want to be able to collect them themselves, right? For safety or convenience reasons, through BOPIS and curbside pickup. So these so-called trends, and I hesitate to even call them that because a trend sounds like it may just disappear, but it's not. They are here to stay because consumers really love the convenience and flexibility that some of them introduced to during COVID, but now they're addicted to. And retailers and operators are going to have to step up really to remain relevant. So what does all that mean for us, the operators then, right? It means more throughput. It means faster SLAs for a larger proliferation of SKUs of all different shapes and sizes, and really the need for operational flexibility, because we need the ability to respond quickly and easily to changes in things like order volumes and profiles. So, many challenges there, and many tailwinds to the growth that we're going to see in our buildings. And one of the things that is probably the biggest challenge facing operators is labor, as Lou said. Attracting and training and retaining warehouse labor is top of mind for practically everyone these days. I mean, I speak with our customers every day, and invariably labor is cited as the top challenge and blocker for growth. And unfortunately, the problem is going to get worse because research analysts are saying that by 2025, there's going to be a need for 13 million warehouse associates. That's million with an M, right? And that's double where we are today. So doubling the labor force. So if access to labor is an ongoing challenge for operators, automation and making what labor there is more efficient simply has to be a top priority. So labor is definitely a challenge. As we've just talked about. Let's see, there we go. And building the slide. However, productivity is a second challenge that operators face. Unlocking and increasing warehouse associate productivity to drive operational efficiencies and really just get more output per associate in the warehouse is also a real challenge. And this obviously can be solved at least partially by providing automation tools, which are easy to learn and use. Operators also need to be flexible We talked about, kind of the changing turbulent environment we're all working in, but we need to be able to provide operators with flexible tools so they can adapt and react to all the fluctuations in kind of order profile, order mix, different types of products, shift from B2C to B2B and back. And of course, those ever-changing, customer demands for fulfillment like yesterday kind of thing. And of course, all the while, operators need to make sure that they're providing a safe and healthy environment for their associates. So 6 River really understands these customer pain points, and we are laser focused on building products and solutions that empower operators to overcome these challenges through automation, of course. So let's get into it a little bit more. But before we do that, I kind of want to introduce you a little bit to take the liberty and the opportunity, if you don't mind, to introduce you to 6RS and the journey that we've been on as a company in this space, but since starting in 2015 when we were founded. We are now really the warehouse automation and robotics arm of Shopify, and we'll talk about that in a minute, what the impact has been. It's all been good. But we were founded in 2015 by some ex-Kiva executives with really deep industry knowledge and experience. And they identified order picking as the biggest automation opportunity for driving labor efficiency in the warehouse. And we built and launched Chuck, who many of you know right there. You can see a little picture, and we're going to meet Chuck later. Chuck's our collaborative AMR. And we started working with some very big retailers and 3PLs that you see listed here in both North America and in Europe. And in 2019, when we were acquired by Shopify, it was a real kind of mind meld of mission. They really believed in our mission to automate fulfillment. And they've done nothing but help speed our growth in customers and product development since 2019, right? So we've accelerated our product development of the FES, which I mentioned earlier, which is our wall-to-wall fulfillment execution system, the product that we have that is in hundreds of warehouses today. So we quickly expanded beyond picking on Chuck, which is where kind of we started, into launching products such as PACKOUT, sortation, inventory put away, and singles returns. And we've made really significant strides in our goal towards automated fulfillment solutions that really touch the 4 walls of the warehouse and empower operators to execute and orchestrate all warehouse activities using 6RS hardware and software solutions. And today, I'm really proud to say that the FES is fulfilling millions of orders in over 100 warehouses in North America and Europe. So that's 6RS for those of you who don't know us, but it's important that we've been on this journey towards doing more and more automation within this space. Because our mission at 6 River is to help our customers really, and empower them to deliver better fulfillment everywhere. And this means powering wall-to-wall fulfillment activities everywhere in the warehouse, from inbounding to pick, pack, and ship, and value-add services and everything in between. And doing that in warehouses of all shapes and sizes, mezzanine, multi-floor warehouses, single-floor warehouses, and all across the globe. And I wanted to dig in a little bit around, how we achieve this mission, right? We have 3 very customer-first product development principles that guide how we design our products and that push us to develop innovative solutions for our customers' problems. And the first one there is visibility. So we want to provide visibility really to a bunch of different folks, associates, warehouse managers and floor managers, and execs. So wherever possible, we want to let 6RS's smart software make the best decisions to optimize the system, because it's always going to be faster to have a system and automation do it instead of a human. But we want to provide real-time visibility into those decisions to the operators so that they always know what's going on. And where needed, we also want to give them the ability to make smart decisions to intervene and control and optimize the resources in their buildings as well. So giving them the power and control to hit their SLAs consistently in the most efficient way. The second one is, and we'll talk a lot more about some of the examples of kind of visibility in a little bit. The second kind of core principle is flexibility. We want to make our system easy to integrate with, deploy, use, and augment. And we do this, as an example, through very simple user interfaces. So we want to make sure the Chuck screens and all the interfaces that associates have is easier for them to learn, to be trained on certain activities, and then cross-trained on other activities so that they are very flexible and can flow from picking to PACKOUT to sortation to replenishment. Because ultimately our vision is to enable associates to pick or do any activity on any device, anywhere in the warehouse, in any activity, right? So that they can use a chuck or a 6RS handheld, which I'll talk about in a minute, or a static kind of stationary terminal to do whatever task they need, whatever device is best and suited to their task, right? We want to give them flexibility because flexibility means productivity. And I guess the last thing I would say, well, no, that's enough on flexibility. But so then lastly, scalability. And this is a really, really important one. We believe that the most powerful fulfillment solutions, for our customers is actually probably a combination of 6RS built products plus a broad ecosystem of third-party technologies, all integrated and controlled and optimized by 6RS. By leveraging a rich kind of ecosystem of partners out there, 6RS can help customers scale or take advantage of existing automation or assets in their building. And we are building the FES, our product, as an extensible platform with pre-built integrations to external automation technologies. And a couple of examples of those is box builders and or high velocity picking or packing systems. So scalability, very, very important. And we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. So that's 6 River in a nutshell and how we approach this problem on behalf of our customers. So I wanted to dig in a little bit to our automation system, which we call the FES, right? And we're on a multi-year journey to really build out this wall-to-wall solution, which consists of 3 layers. And I'll build on those, but to take the first one, which is the execution layer, where, as it says here, we're building, and this is where we execute activities in the warehouse. And we're building simple workflows for all the activities in the warehouse. And the vision is from dock door to dock door, right? Including all of inbounding, inventory management, and outbound activities. And all of these activities are automated by our smart software. And they're delivered, as I just mentioned, by chucks or by other 6 River hardware, such as PACKOUT, terminals, sortation stations, et cetera. And we'll be launching our handheld, 6RS handheld, where associates can actually take the handheld, which has all this smart software on it, and pair it with another material handling piece of equipment, such as a forklift or an order picker, to perform activities like an inventory count or a high bay pick, right? So operators can execute with 6RS from wall to wall. The next layer is what we call the management layer. And this is kind of the, as I think about it, it's kind of the smarts in the smart FES software. These are algorithms that drive continuous system level optimization of things like, for instance, order allocation and chuck path planning and SLA management. We want to automate as much of the decision making as possible, right? To increase efficiency and throughput and take humans out of the decisions as much as possible. And at the same time, we want to provide visibility of those decisions in the management layer to operators as to what's going on within their 4 walls in near real time, so that site managers can access reports and dashboards on things like individual associate performance. Where are the chucks? What work is in the system? Where are inventory hotspots? And use the tool to resolve exceptions, et cetera. And all of these management capabilities are delivered via our operator portal, which we call the bridge. And I'll speak about that in a little more detail in a little bit. And the last layer here is the visibility layer. Sorry, that looks a little funky, visibility, hard to read, but I'll talk to you about it. And really, this is the ability to provide operators with visibility of what's going on, either at the individual node level or at the network level, right? Which is especially important for regional supply chain leaders and C-suite execs. 6RS can provide network level visibility and asset optimization, node level benchmarking to improve like individual site performances, and ultimately want to provide visibility of industry level benchmarking so that you know how your sites are performing versus each other as well as their peers, right? So it's a 3-level cake, I guess, if you will, that makes up the FES. And I mentioned earlier, the FES is a wall-to-wall system, right? And we started with picking right there in the middle, but the purpose of this slide is to say is we are working out from the center, and we've aggressively built out from picking, and we're live with multimodal picking. So picking discrete singles and multis, cluster picking, zone picking, but also eaches and case level inventory put away and singles returns. And we've got a multi-year roadmap to add additional capabilities around inventory, move and count and article inspection, and much, much more, until we are literally touching the four walls of your warehouse. But let's start and back with Chuck, right? Chuck is who we're known for and where we started, and we're super proud of Chuck. Chuck is the most configurable AMR in the market with multiple sizes. We've got Chuck and Chuck Plus, which has about 20% more capacity than Chuck does, and both have a payload of about 200 pounds. Chuck has up to 6 configurable pickable shelves, and all of them have put to light. So again, more technology to make Chuck more powerful. Plus, we've got room on Chuck for storing things like onboard ladders and dunnage that can be generated throughout the activity. And those shelves, they can be set at any level to accommodate different tote sizes, different order profiles, and really giving us the ability to optimize to the 1/2 inch, really, the workspace to maximize Chuck utilization. And last, I guess the last point I would make is whatever type of product you're picking, Chuck can handle it. We've got garment on hanger. We can pick large items into large totes, smaller items into poly bags, and importantly, a mix of all of those on a single Chuck. And importantly, Chuck is fully certified in North America and EU markets. So that's Chuck, but how does the FES and Chuck work together? That's a question we get a lot. So I wanted to take a minute to talk you through kind of step-by-step guide of what's happening when an associate is working with Chuck, because a lot is actually happening in the cloud, where our intelligence software is working in the background to boost really 3 warehouse operations that we'll talk through: induct, picking, or whatever activity, be it picking, replen, et cetera, and takeoff. So let's start with number 1. So number 1, the process starts with induct down there in the bottom left. During induct, Chuck talks to the cloud software that is intelligently grouping orders to minimize the associate pick path and increase productivity. Your associate badges into Chuck and loads Chuck up with empty totes to be picked into. And they can also load, obviously, inventory onto case put away or returned items onto Chuck as well during the kind of put away induct process. The induct and throughout this process, the induct operator is guided through the process step by step by the Chuck screen, right? So that they are prompted all the way through what they need to do it efficiently. The next step in the process is the meet, M-E-E-T step. And let's talk about just how it works for picking as an example. So once Chuck is loaded at induct, he travels on his own to the picking area autonomously, because the picking area can be somewhat of a distance from induct, depending on the size of your warehouse. So Chuck travels autonomously, no labor involved, to the picking area. And they actually they park themselves at the pre-pick meeting point, which is where picking associates know where to go to find Chuck that is ready to work. These meeting points, importantly, are kind of strategically scattered through the pick area, and Chucks always travel to the pre-pick meeting point that's closest to the very first pick the associate's going to make, so that we don't waste associates' time walking with Chuck to get to their first pick. Very, very important. We reduce that time. So then during the picking process itself, the onboard Chuck screen guides the associate through the warehouse, the path that they're taking, and through the pick task itself to keep the associate picking on task and not getting distracted. So in a sense, you can think about Chuck is kind of the Google Maps for your warehouse. I'm sure we all use Google Maps or Waze or whatever it is, guiding the associate on the most efficient path to accomplish their task, right? And during that task, during the pick task, Chuck collaborates with the associates using different forms of technology too. First of all, they provide all the important item information like image, description, quantity, location on the screen. Another piece of technology that helps during this process is Chuck's put to light technology, which lights up not only to indicate which side of the aisle that the pick needs to happen on, but which tote on Chuck to place the item in for a high level of accuracy. And Chuck's onboard scanner captures all the necessary product information, including real-time validation of lot or serial numbers, all in a single scan, so that operators are actually picking hands-free. And the Chuck can print tote labels as well on the fly in the aisle if needed. And the last step of the process, be it for picking or anything else, is that once all the work on Chuck has been completed, Chuck screen informs that pick associates to badge out and where they can then go and find the next Chuck to pick with. And Chuck will travel autonomously to the next destination. And the next destination can be either a takeoff for packing, a separate pick zone, or an exception hospital area to remove problem totes. The now empty Chuck that has had the totes removed from it heads back to induct where the cycle begins again, and so forth. So, and I would say the last thing I would say about Chuck is that all Chucks can be used interchangeably to do picking, put away, returns, etc. So that operators can flexibly respond to whatever works in their system. If they have replen, they can use a Chuck that's finished with picking for replen and vice versa. So with the same fleet, they can operate and do different warehouse activities. That's that kind of core principle of flexibility. And speaking of Chuck workflows, I just wanted to quickly show you some of them. Here's the kind of user interface on the Chuck itself. And you can see how simple and intuitive this is. Here's an induct screen, for instance. And the associate is clearly shown what level on the Chuck to place the empty container and where on the workspace to place the container so that you are very, very accurate. And here's the takeoff screen. It's pretty similar, right? It deliberately so. We want to make sure that associates can do induct, or here in this case, do takeoff and picking very easily and quickly. And they can get competent on all those different workflows. And in fact, we know that just looking at picking, that new pickers can get to 80% of full productivity on day one of picking with Chuck. And they can get to full productivity within just a few days of learning to pick with Chuck. So extremely high kind of take up rate. And that's great news in a labor constrained environment, right? You want your new labor to be as efficient as possible, as quickly as possible. And that can happen very easily through automation with Chuck. And the UIs are also are consistent across other areas, not just picking, right? So here's an example of our of sortation and PACKOUT workflows, which use the exact same simple touchscreen and look and feel as the picking and induct screens that I just showed you. So associates can be cross-trained to do pick and sort as well, and any other activity. Making them really, really flexible. So just for sortation, I think just to tell you more a little bit about that workflow, because it's a great example of our kind of wall-to-wall workflows. And in this case, it really starts back at Chuck Induct, where during the induction process, our smart software is breaking up those discrete orders into highly dense and really efficient pick runs so that the in-aisle pick rate is very, very high. And then post-pick, those items can be picked across multiple Chucks and multiple totes, right? So post-pick, they need to be recombined and easily sorted back into discrete orders at 6RS's sortation station, which we call mobile sort. So we can, and actually customers use mobile sort in a couple different ways. Since now that I'm thinking about it, it's not only to super efficiently pick orders, but it's also they can use mobile sort during key peak times to scale or flex for seasonal volume spikes. And sortation can be a really, really useful tool for that. And on the right, we have PACKOUT. So as I said earlier, we can pick discrete single line, single unit, or single line multi-unit orders and pack them out using 6RS's multimodal PACKOUT system. The associate here would scan a tote of items that have been picked, and they're guided through the on-screen UI through the packing out of discrete single line, single unit, or multi-orders. And that workflow guides them to pick the right shipping container to minimize shipping costs. And they can also scan each or scan first to achieve the kind of the right balance between quality and speed, depending on what you, the operator, really want us to optimize for. So that's more examples of kind of the simple workflows and the wall-to-wall build out of our FES system. So that's a lot about what the floor associate uses and feels and sees. And I want to shift gears for a minute to talk about another very powerful, important part of the FES, which we call the bridge, which is the operator command center. It sounds very grand, but it really is very, very important, because this is a portal where managers and leaders can view and control and optimize what's going on in their building, right? Including order volume and trace orders through inbounding, through picking and outbounding. They can track order status, associate performance, chucks and where they are, inventory and exceptions. And, you know, this is all provided through dashboarding and reporting that can also help, importantly, you know, shed light on and expose blind spots and opportunities for efficiency improvements around areas like labor forecasting, SLA attainment, picking performance, and really overall site optimization. And we really put a big emphasis on making sure that we're not just reporting the news, right? We want to provide actual insights through this bridge that can help operators make smart decisions to meet their SLAs and really just get the most out of 6RS in their system at the click of a button. So it's a very, very powerful tool. And the last kind of aspect of the FES that I want to talk about, interestingly, I guess as I think about it, brings us right back to one of our core product principles, which is scalability and our vision of empowering customers to deliver better fulfillment everywhere in their warehouses. As I talked briefly earlier, but I want to tell you a little bit more by what we mean by it is to achieve that vision, we understand that to empower customers with the best automation to support their growth, we need to integrate with other third-party partners who can provide complementary automation capabilities that actually enhance and extend 6RS's technology depending on the needs of the customer. It's all about the customer. And because the combination of 6RS built products plus an ecosystem of third-party partner technologies, all seamlessly integrated and controlled and optimized by 6RS, provides the best solutions for customers. So we're deliberately building the FES as an extensible platform with pre-built integrations to leverage this kind of this rich ecosystem of other automation players, because we firmly believe that this approach will allow our customers to easily and seamless take advantage of best of breed fulfillment technologies to fuel their growth wherever they exist in the market. And so a couple of examples of this strategic integration and this third-party ecosystem that we've built. We have many of them active at multiple sites today. And some examples here on the left is pack size for on-demand box building. And we have a site in Michigan where our customer Liberty, which is a distributor of hardware items, they dynamically create the right size box for outbound shipping to minimize shipping costs and their environmental impact, which is a wonderful mission. And we also have several examples of on-demand box building actually at Induct at the beginning of the process, where customers are generating super space efficient boxes to put on Chuck and pick orders directly into the right size box. And this really optimizes down to the inch the space on Chuck and drives super high picking efficiencies, which is awesome. The other example of an integration in the middle there is our VLM integration, and Pure Fishing, a customer of ours with a very long tail of small SKUs, needed us to integrate with their modular VLM to really efficiently pick smaller items from a very small footprint to drive up picking efficiency. And via our integration and smart order allocations, the Chuck pulls right up to the VLM. And as Chuck arrives at the unit, the correct pick face is displayed, and then the associate just picks that item onto Chuck using the same SKU data in the UI that is provided, that we just looked at a minute earlier, that's provided at from a regular in aisle pick from a usual bay. As well as they are guided through that picking process with the Chuck UI, and they leverage the Chuck scanner and the put to light system and everything else. So a wonderful integration there. And the final example would be an example of an auto bagging, a high velocity bagging integration that we did with a partner Ingram in Louisville. They were fulfilling high volumes of apparel, right? And our integration in smart FES software allows Ingram to choose where to send orders to be packed out, either through the 6RS PACKOUT or to their Accutech auto bagger. And this has enabled them to handle promotions and peak with ease, leveraging kind of multiple automation technologies seamlessly and all through 6RS's FES solution. So integrations and that extensible platform and scalability of the product is a very important part of what we do. But I guess, to round things out and close things out, I don't want you to take our word for it. We believe strongly in our automation technology, our FES technology, but I want to take us through 2 quick customer cases that illustrate how real life customers today we're partnering with 6 River using the FES to solve their challenges through automation. As I mentioned earlier, Ingram needed a scalable solution to help them do a couple things, to pick high volumes of different types of orders. They had a very interesting mix of discretes, multis, and singles batch orders. They needed us to pick a very broad set of SKUs that were low concentration across a large area in their warehouse. And they had a very, very high peak to mean and frequent promotions. So lots of challenges. And the solution that we designed in partnership with them was a solution that included over 70 trucks. And we actually augment that with seasonal rentals periodically through the year to deal with their spikes. And the solution included 46 River Pack stations and 12 mobile sort stations. And we also integrated with their auto bagger, as I just talked about. And this past year at peak, for example, this site was fulfilling over 100,000 units a day with 6 River. And we're delivering significant pick improvements, as you can see here on the screen, every single day. And then the second case study is with Crocs. Everyone knows and recognizes Crocs. My kids wear them. They've got, I think, a blue pair and a purple pair that are forever in all over my house. We partnered with our gracious host Sedlak to design and test and deploy an 80 chuck system for Crocs, who needed to quickly stand up a solution at their Dayton, Ohio facility that was fulfilling upwards of 75,000 units a day. And Crocs's main pain points were flexibility and speed. They needed a solution that would scale with them, and they needed it fast, really fast. And in under 3 months, 6 River designed their solution from the ground up, built the integration, and tested and deployed on site 80 chucks in a matter of weeks. And another amazing achievement is that we actually reached full volume within 2 days of going live. So the ramp was super quick. And something that's not on this slide, but is also really important. It is on the slide, is that we reduced their associate training from a week to a day. That's how simple using 6 River automation is in Chuck, which, when you have 400 plus associates in their warehouse, was a huge achievement and a huge win for them. So very, very proud of working with those 2 customers. So that's it for my slides. Thank you so much for listening. I guess I would leave you with a final thought that fulfillment automation is practically a mandate in today's market, right? Because of all of the operational challenges that we know we're going to be contending with. And 6RS's wall-to-wall fulfillment solutions could be a great place for you to start your own automation journey. So we'd love to hear from you, as always. But with that, I think we've probably got some questions to dig into. So I'm going to turn it back over to Lou to manage us through that. But thanks for listening, and let's get to the questions.
Okay, excuse me. Well, thank you so much, Gillian. I appreciate that. And yes, not surprisingly, we do have some questions out there. The first one, you've touched on the topic a couple of times. I mentioned it briefly in my introductory comments as well. And that is, I think when we think of AMRs, we certainly concentrate on, okay, it's going to help reduce the picking labor. And, as I've learned more about the product and as kind of was presented today, I think, the big thing here is that, to me, whether it's processing of returns or potentially replenishment, to me, it's the same thing. I'm just trying to get the product to the right place without having to walk all over God's creation to get it to there, right? So I'd like you to make sure that truly our attendees understand that, how they can use this product, your offerings and AMRs for, the ability to process returns and or replenishment, say the shelving sections, if you would, please.
Yes. So today we absolutely use Chuck as I use my hands a lot. But it is important. Like, we started with Chuck for picking right in the middle of that warehouse, and as I said, because that's order picking is highly labor intensive, right? And it's fairly repetitive, and so therefore relatively easy to automate. You know, automation is very difficult in general, but relatively easy to automate. But we've started with picking, and then we expanded quickly outwards from there into other areas. And today we have customers using our inventory kind of put away from using cases, the induct cases onto Chuck. And Chuck takes them, again, carefully path planned through the warehouse to replenish those cases, either directly to a pick face or into a temporary kind of inventory location that can be pulled from in the future. And that same technology can actually not only be used for cases for replenishment and put away, but for singles returns. We know that returns is a huge, literally physically huge and mounting problem in warehouses. And we can use our technology, Chuck technology, to induct those returns in a single tote. You can put as many different types of singles returns into a single tote and have Chuck guide the replenisher or returns put awayer, I guess you'd call them, through the warehouse, and use the same technology for a pick as for a put, right? The same put to light technology and scanning accuracy to make sure you're replenishing and putting those returns quickly back to the pick face so that they can be sold, right? But I think, Lou, your answer went kind of deeper into, hey, where is automation going in the warehouse in general? And definitely more and more is able to be automated simply because the technology that Six River and many other robotics and automation companies are developing is advancing, right? You know, we simply started with the highest impact area because picking is so labor hungry and the ROI was very high and positive in that place. But as the technology gets more advanced, technology is going to, and automation is going to be able to do more complex things, right? And some of the challenges that many people are looking at are things like, you know, trailer unloading and palletization and things that require different and higher levels of automation to achieve. And so there's really no limits to where automation and robotics can help in a warehouse. You know, we're very pleased that there's so many you know, competitors in this space, because it means that there is a proven value to automation in all areas of the warehouse that many you know, technology providers are seeing the opportunity and investing, right? And that's a great benefit to automation in general and for our space.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think throughout this entire 2 days here, we've talked about GTP, we've talked about AMR, we've talked about AGV. You know, to me, the whole point of all of that is that it, you know, flexible, scalable. You know, we entitled it basically, you know, supply chain agility, right? I mean, and that, when you add those all together, I think that's really what defines agility, to be able to be scalable, you know, to be able to be not bolted down to the floor.
Yep.
I know, obviously, you know, what goods to person, certainly it's bolted to the floor. However, you know, the ability to still flex the size of those and the configuration of those systems is I think we're just really hitting the tip of the iceberg. And, you know, to the points made earlier, there's no doubt that, you know, e-commerce is not disappearing. I don't know that I will ever do my grocery shopping, or my wife or I will do our grocery shopping in store other than rare occasions. There's no need to, right?
Why would you? Why would you? Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I think that's certainly what we're seeing. And I think, you know, I thought this was a good concluding segment from the standpoint that, you know, you need to think outside the box. It's not just a single function that we're trying to do here. We're really trying to automate, to your point, wall to wall, right? And I mean, you know, more is coming. We're excited about, you know, everything that's happening out in the industry. We're excited about the partners. And, you know, I think it's time now probably for me to start my thank yous. All right. So first of all, thank you, Gillen, for taking your time. We appreciate that. I know everyone's got a day job, so we appreciate people taking time. You know, it's most important, I think, that we ought to thank the attendees, right? We want to make sure that all the attendees understand that we appreciate the time you've taken from your busy schedules to join us. And, you know, we look forward to having an opportunity to potentially meet with you individually and to help you through this automation journey. And then certainly we wouldn't have a program if we didn't have our sponsors. So I want to start by thanking Six Rivers, who sponsored both the opening and closing sessions for our work stop here. Dematic, Locus Robotics, Easy Metrics, and Swisslog. Again, thank you to all of them. Thank you for your participation. Certainly continue to follow us. We've updated our website recently. We'd appreciate it if you take a look and walk out there and spend some time exploring. If there's any questions that come up on any of these presentations, a note on that is I know we had some technical difficulties yesterday with some people not being able to stay into the sessions. We apologize for that. That was taken care of prior to today. Also, the dramatic video that did not have audio, we are correcting that so that anyone who either was kicked out from yesterday's sessions and or may want to view a session subsequent to the show here, as long as you are a registrant, you'll be able to do so, and we'll be sending information out on that so that you'll be able to enjoy some of the sessions that you may have not been able to attend. Again, we thank you all for your participation. And we wish you nothing but success in 2022 and beyond. Thank you very much. Have a good day and a good week. Bye now.